Well, I am off. It is 12 o'clock, midday, which is not a great time to start a new journey, but it's the only time I had available to leave, so I am off to Washington State. And this time I'm heading towards the Eceiti Ranch in Washington State to go and do some stargazing and more for my second solo trip. This time I'm a little more prepared for any bear action. So hopefully I won't see any bear. That would be great. But it's a long haul trip, 16 and a half hours, so I'm going to have to split it overnight somewhere. I'm not quite sure yet. I think Red Bluff. I think that's where I'll stop my first night. Stay tuned. This is a brutal drive. Hot, long, boring. And I've got miles and miles and hours to go.
I've been driving for about 7 hours, pushing 8 hours, and I think I'm going to go all the way through to Mount Shasta, where I believe it's raining. It's day 2 of my trip up north to Eceiti Ranch. Last night I ended up making it all the way to Mount Shasta, and I stayed there. It was raining, so I couldn't set up the roof tent. But anyway, I woke up early this morning. I'm heading back out and going north. What I love about traveling is that you really see things from a different perspective. I'd heard about Oregon's beauty, but until you're there and you see it up close and personal, there is nothing like it. Especially the beautiful coastline. That is well worth seeing. As my trip continued, the weather remained overcast and stayed this way all the way into Washington State. The Hood River Bridge marks the official separation between the state of Oregon and Washington. And as I took in the majestic views, I was so happy that I was finally approaching my destination. It had been raining non-stop from Mount Shasta all the way up to Washington State.
In about 2 miles, turn left.
I had been driving for 17 hours, and I was looking forward to finally getting to my destination and stretching my legs.
In a quarter mile, the destination is on your left to Eceiti.
The Eceiti Ranch is well known worldwide as a hotspot for UFO activity and sightings. It is owned and operated by James Gilliland, who has been documenting and initiating contact for decades. He's also an internationally known lecturer and best-selling author. His work has attracted the attention of well-known scholars, scientists, and researchers. The word Eceiti stands for enlightened contact with extraterrestrial intelligence.
I finally made it to Eceiti. It was a heck of a journey, even for me. I just met James, and here is the skywatch, and it's overcast and rainy, but apparently it is going to open up later today. So, yeah. And this is the yoga room, and that's where we'll be later.
Visitors come from all over the world to stay at the Eceiti Ranch. All of the rooms are very basic and rustic. You can choose to stay in a tent, a yurt, a cabin, or bring your own accommodation, which is what I chose to do. Breakfast can be ordered the night before, which is fresh and organic from land to table. I had heard about the Eceiti Ranch and James Gilliland, and was familiar with some of the work he was doing. I was looking forward to exploring Eceiti Ranch, spending time in nature, and hearing about James and other people's experiences. I went about setting up my roof tent as the rain had finally stopped and given us a break. Most people in tents were camped under the trees, but since I had driven so far to get there, I figured there was no way I was not going to be out in the middle of the field under the stars. I was looking forward to a night of relaxing, sitting back, and sky watching. I continued to explore the beautiful surroundings before finally settling in for a night of storytelling and sky watching with James and his guests. As the evening settled in, the overhead skies started to clear, giving us a beautiful view of the starry heavens and Mount Adams. As I was listening to people sharing their experiences with Bigfoot sightings and more, I kind of listened with half an ear, as I was more interested in getting out into the field and skywatching. Not in my wildest dreams did I ever expect that these stories would soon be impacting my evening. But I digress. For those of you who are skeptical, I've included a short clip from one of the many videos available online that were filmed at Eceiti Ranch. Still need more proof? Then I highly recommend you book a weekend up at Eceiti Ranch and experience it for yourself. I promise you, it won't disappoint. The skies here are literally a highway of activity. And with the night vision binoculars they have available at the ranch, any doubts you may have will soon be dispelled.
There's the power up. Whoa!
At around 10:30 in the evening, I finally decided to head to my tent, exhausted from a long day of driving and exciting skywatching. I don't even remember my head hitting the pillow. I was out like a light. At around 4:05 in the morning, I was startled awake by something that impacted the side of my car, causing my vehicle to rock from side to side. Terrified and confused, I immediately sat upright in my sleeping bag, trying to figure out what was going on. My first thought was bear. Terrified, I tried to figure out its whereabouts. Had it jumped onto my car? Was it around my car? Was it coming up the ladder towards the tent? I remained motionless, barely breathing and listening. I knew from my previous experience in Mount Shasta that bears sniff incessantly. However, I didn't hear anything. No sniffing, no movement around the vehicle, just an eerie silence. The only thing I had inside my tent was my iPhone. I checked the time. It was 4:08 a.m. I remained motionless in my tent, trying to figure out what it was. At about 4:35, I bravely unzipped my tent and looked out, iPhone in hand, in case I saw anything. It was freezing outside. I don't know what I expected I would find. I couldn't see anything, just the nightlight from one of the buildings and the distant humming of a generator. There were 2 motorhomes parked nearby, about 10 to 20 feet away from my tent. There was nothing, no movement. Everyone was asleep. I reluctantly climbed back up into my tent. Sleep would be elusive. Exhausted, I stared out of my window, thinking about the stories from the night before. James had shared the story about a mother and juvenile Bigfoot which had been spotted around the property on numerous occasions. Could it be Bigfoot? I shared my experience the next morning, and James asked if I would mind if he came out to check for footprints, which I welcomed. We didn't find any footprints. However, we did see what appeared to be a handprint on the side of my car by my side view mirror. It was kind of hard to tell in the daylight since my car was reflective, but we could definitely see a large print of some sort. I wasn't the only person who was awoken at 4 a.m. by unusual sounds. However, I was the only one who had a physical experience. Since they document these type of events at the property, a filmmaker asked if I would mind sharing my experience.
It really happened to me. I don't know what it was. And I'm kind of scared to sleep again in here tonight, so we'll see what happens.
Thankfully, there were no repeat performances the next evening. I was so freaked out from everything that it was only the following evening, once I had left Eceiti Ranch, that it occurred to me in the middle of the night that I should take a photo in the darkness. And this is the result. You can make out what appears to be a footprint, and not a handprint like we thought. That kind of made sense with the way I felt the impact coming from the side, like I was sideswiped. If you look closely, you can see the outline of a big toe and a toe next to it,
You can even make out the folds in the skin between the big toe and the ball of the foot. The toes are clearly much larger than that of a human foot. And to make a print on the side of my car at that height, you need to be quite tall and have very big feet, like Bigfoot. I know there are a lot of skeptics out there, but all the people who have reported Bigfoot sightings over the years can't all be lying.